to some of the smaller tourism-related enterprises. On tourism, I just want to mention an initiative that is coming. You may be aware that there was a major paragraph in the budget speech on tourism. The government is proposing to create a new tourism organization which will be similar to those in Singapore and Japan, that will coordinate between state, center and private sector so that tourists have an enhanced, more coordinated and higher quality experience. And I think you will eventually see benefits of that in states like Sikkim as well. On the point of immigration, I will pass on this information to the Ministry of Home Affairs. It's an interesting and valid point. If it's been closed since 2020, we've taken note of that and will pass on it.
Yes. And there are other schemes under Mudra you can get for bakeries up to 10 lakh rupees of loan. Then we have a Stand Up India scheme also given by our bank. And the figures given to me shows that in Sikkim there is quite a good offtake of these schemes. I'm sure you are aware of that. I will advise you to connect with your banker. Then probably you will get to know more about these schemes in detail.
Just to inform the person who spoke about the border villages, vibrant village program. I'm in fact going to Lachin tomorrow.
You are welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Only to see and ensure that all government schemes are attaining saturation there. So if there are any eligible person left behind without a scheme accessing them or reaching them, I want to ensure that it reaches them. So that is one thing. Second, under the Vibrant Villages program, whatever has been proposed, I want to see if each one of those items are getting fulfilled there, actually connectivity, teleconnections, and also the basic infrastructure in that village. So I will be viewing connectivity, teleconnections, and also the basic infrastructure in that village. So I will be viewing it in person, going around the village also, and to be almost to the border areas, till where it is permitted, and making sure that this shall not be my first visit or only visit. This year I want to follow it up to make sure that Lachin and the border there and the villages around there are fully going to be meeting everything which is promised in the budget. So, more than all,
now I request Sri Mr. Chandak, Chartered Accountant, Gangtok Study Circle of Chartered Accountants, Senior Member, to ask his question. Sri Mr. Chandak, good afternoon, respected Madam. Well, it has, the industrialization process in the entire Northeast has been very nice and very good since the last 5 to 10 years now, and it's been growing at a rapid and accelerating rate. So there is this, in income tax, there is this section called Section 80IE, which is still there, very much prevalent, and which provides for the tax rebate for the industries set up in the entire Northeast. But this has been diluted to some extent, ma'am, by way of ordinance in 2019, by insertion of section 115BAA in the income tax, ma'am, which says that for the reduction of the corporate tax rate by 10%. So either the industries, either the SECs has to follow section 115BAA, which provides the corporate tax rebate, or do away with the exemptions based in the Northeast, ma'am. So our request is, ma'am, if the section 80IE or the area-based exemptions can go on parallelly, that will be very nice, ma'am, for the entire Northeast and for the industrialization activity for the entire Northeast part of the country, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Sri Santosh Singh, Vice President, Sikkim Chambers of Commerce.
Namaskar, madam. Myself, Santosh Singh, Vice President, Sikkim Chamber of Commerce. I, on behalf of our members and business community, heartily welcomes you to a beautiful and peaceful state of Sikkim. We also express our heartfelt gratitude towards your good self for giving us this opportunity of being heard. We also congratulate yourself for presenting futuristic Budget 2023. Madam, we would like to know that the increase of capital expenditure by 33%, amounting to a total of 10 lakh crores, will help boost the infrastructure of road and railways. How northeastern states, specifically Sikkim, will get benefit from this scheme? The next point is the increase in allocation towards the PM Awas Yojana, a 66% increase. Why is this significant? Thank you.
Sri Vinay Chaturvedi, Plant Head, Zuantis Healthcare Limited.
मेरा नाम विनय चतुर्वेदी है और मैं एक जुवेंटस हेल्थकेयर लिमिटेड फार्मा फील्ड से हूँ। आपका स्वागत है सिक्किम में। जैसा कि मैम आप भी जानते हैं कि NEIII के स्कीम के तहत में 2007 में ये इंसेंटिव्स वगैरह शुरू की गई थी फार्मा ग्रोथ के लिए यहाँ पे, और 10 साल के लिए एलिजिबिलिटी थी इसकी। तो जिन लोगों ने 2017 तक इसमें अपने आप को एनरोल किया, 2027 में उनका टेन्योर खत्म होगा अगेंस्ट ऑल जो भी इनके इंसेंटिव्स मिल रही हैं, जिसमें इनकम टैक्स की बेनिफिट्स थी और इस कैपिटल सब्सिडी भी थी 58% ये तकरीबन। और आपसे मेरा यही जानना चाहते हैं कि क्या ये फर्दर स्कीम आगे लागू रहेगी या इसमें कुछ और इंसेंटिव्स ऐड ऑन होंगे जिससे कि फार्मा की जो ग्रोथ है यहाँ पे आगे जा सके। दूसरी बात ये कि जितनी भी डोमेस्टिक मार्केट्स हैं इंडिया की, मोस्टली सिक्किम से ही कैटर होती है। तो हमारा क्वेश्चन यही है कि क्या इस स्कीम को आगे बढ़ाई जाएगी या इसमें और कुछ अमेंडमेंट्स करके इसको लागू किया जाएगा? थैंक यू मैम।
The question which was asked from Chamber of Commerce on two issues: increase in the capex, capital expenditure, as well as on rural housing. Government for the last 3 to 4 years has been paying special attention to building infrastructure. One, the building infrastructure adds to the growth as well as to the jobs, and that becomes important that it goes to all areas. And if you recall that the last budget has also provided assistance for the states in the northeast. Plus, there is assistance for the state government also as a 50-year interest-free loan for the capital expenditure. So these are the ones, build infrastructure, and I am coming to this state after 35 years and I am seeing that kind of a pressure on on the infrastructure which has created. So we have to keep up pace with that. As far as rural housing is concerned, government goal is very clear. The saturation. Each household, the poor household must have good pakka house. There is no point in giving few houses. It must be a saturation. So increases, massive increase is to make sure that every household, poor household, gets a house.
Yeah, I would just like to supplement that answer with some more information for you. In the increase in capital expenditure of 33%, there are two elements. There is an increase on the central side, and then there is an increase in the 50-year interest-free loan which is given to state governments. So the provision for interest-free loan to state governments, which was 1 lakh crore in 2022-23, is going up to 1,30,000 crores in 23-24. And this amount has two components. There is a component which is allocated to states and which does not have a specific previous purpose prescribed by the center. That is actually the bulk of the scheme. The projects are chosen by the state government according to the needs of the state. Under this category, we normally go by the Finance Commission's devolution formula for state governments as to how much each state gets. But in the case of Sikkim and the northeastern states, we have allocated amounts which are much larger than what is given by the Finance Commission as their share of national devolution. So Sikkim gets a more than proportionate share of the amount of 1 lakh crore, etc., which is being given under the scheme, and that is going up to 1 lakh 30. So for instance, current year, Sikkim is expected to utilize about 400 crores under this interest-free loan for schemes chosen by the government of Sikkim. These are not priorities of the government of India, these are locally chosen priorities. In addition, the schemes of the NHIDCL for roads in the northeastern region are also receiving a big increase through this enhanced capital budget. I would also take this opportunity just to give you some information on the overall increases for schemes specific to the northeast, in which Sikkim also gets a share. So the schemes of the Northeast Council, the actual expenditure in 2021-22 was 387 crores. The budget for the current year, that is 22-23, was 644 crores, and next year the budget is 800 crores. Similarly, for the Northeast Special Infrastructure Development Scheme, the actual expenditure in the previous financial year was 790 crores. The current year's revised estimates are 1,233, and next year's budget is 2,491. It's more than 100% increase for infrastructure in the Northeast. And then the newly announced scheme, which was announced in last year's budget, PM Divine, which is Prime Minister's Development Initiative for the Northeastern region, which is a new scheme. 400 crores in the revised estimates of the current year will rise to 2,200 crores next year. So there are substantial increases in the specific schemes of the Northeast, apart from the general increase in capital.
On the tax exemption part, I would just like to say that the move of the government you would have noticed in the past few years has been to have, a simplified taxation structure. And so when you have exemptions, whether it is based on area or whether it is on the income tax side related to investments, or even on the GST side, you are aware that there used to be exemptions for investment and sales, etc. So the government has been trying to simplify, number one, and at the same time make the taxation more transparent. And so in that move, the various exemptions that were available pre-GST, you are aware, they have gone. We have tried to, of course, on the central GST part, we have tried to retain the exemptions which were already grandfathered and to a certain extent, not fully. Similarly, you are aware that on the income tax side, we have not increased the exemptions, if not, done away with them. So the move is essentially, towards simplification, and it is in that context, I suppose, you are making mention of the Section 80, etc., area-based exemptions which are there. Probably you are referring to the new section under which there is a 15% now without any exemption. So that makes, taxation very simple, very transparent, and known to everyone. Because on the one hand, we keep hearing that taxation is very complex. It's very difficult for a common man to understand as to what the taxation rate is, and so we are trying to move away with taxation as the instrument, as the primary instrument for incentivizing certain things. That doesn't mean that backward areas, or if there are some other investments or other activities which need to be promoted, that will not be promoted. So if it is backward areas or other areas that need to be promoted, you can see that there is more emphasis now, on infrastructure, whether it is through CapEx this year or last year, or through other means. The emphasis is to provide support so that they don't, remain dependent only on incentives, subsidies, and grants. And we enable them, we equip them through better infrastructure, through better entrepreneurship, better capacity building, skill upgradation programs, all of which you have seen in the past few budgets, including this one. Huge increase in outlay. Thank you.
Now I request Sri Vishal Jain, Chartered Accountant, member of the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India, Siliguri, to ask his question.
Namaste, Honorable Finance Minister Madam. We take this opportunity to appreciate the budget which has been presented by you, covering the various sectors equally. My question is regarding the GST rate on online coaching education system. The rate today is 18%. Burden of 18% directly hit the students who are availing these coaching services with, from different villages and various other sectors. So the question is only that, ma'am, if this rate could be reduced because there is no big capex being involved in the education setup of such online coaching centers, whereby they can avail the high rate of ITC. So 18% could be moderated to 12%. It would be great for such students who are availing these services as an online education services. Thank you, ma'am.
Sri Ramesh Pariwal, President Sikkim Chemist Association.
Good afternoon, Namaskar Madam. मैं रमेश पेरीवाल, representing the chemist fraternity of Sikkim. Honorable Madam, although Sikkim is a very small consumer state in respect of sale of medicines and surgical items, most of the time it is seen that the variety of rate structure in medicine has confused the ailing buyer. I have an opinion that 5% rate be fixed for all those medicines also which are placed in 12% category, which will help the weaker section of society at large. Thank you.
Sri Sora, Chartered Accountant, ex-chairman, Confederation of Indian Industry, North Bengal.
Good evening, Madam. Honorable Madam, these days GST portal is working quite smoothly and we appreciate the efforts. However, can we expect a portal coming up whereby all the cases being initiated by various departments like CGST, SGST, DGI and audit can be made available under the common portal so that there is no multiplicity of cases